Morning.
Morning, morning. Alan, I'm Jessica. Where are you from? While we're waiting for other people, I always just like to find out where participants are coming in from.
From where I live or where I work.
Whichever you would like to share.
I I work at Meta Farms and in Savage, Minnesota.
Oh, Savage, Minnesota. Wow. Okay. Is that near Minneapolis, St. Paul?
We're a suburb. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
How's it going today, Alan?
Good. Yeah, it's always a great name, Savage, Minnesota. It's just
I know,
tremendous.
right? Exactly. Especially in the winter. In the winter.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nicholas. I see Nicholas joined. I see Maria joined. If you guys want to come off mute and just say hello, that would be great. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
Also, if you guys could please take a quick moment to fill out the survey. Sorry, I interrupted someone. Just it helps us understand who is here and what everyone wants to get out of the session. And so we'll be starting in a few moments. If you could just please take the survey and feel free to introduce yourself. Sorry to whoever I cut off.
Alrighty. Oh, more people coming in. Yay! Yay.
Good morning. For those of you who just joined, if you could please take a quick moment to fill out the survey. It helps us understand who is here and what you're most excited about to learn today.
Do I get to take it? Can I tell you what I'm excited to learn today?
Yeah.
What am I? I'm excited to learn where everybody is coming from. That is what I am excited to learn about. And what experiences they have with Power BI. That's another thing I'm excited to learn about.
Also, in the meantime, for anyone, I just sent some links to our LinkedIn and our YouTube, and you can get some other awesome content and tips on Power BI and the whole Microsoft Power Platform.
Alan, looking forward to next week. Are you going to be on any of those calls? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Oh,
I think you're on mute.
Mute is our. Has anybody seen that meme going around that about how seances were the Zoom calls of the 19th century? It was like, Elizabeth, are you there? We can hear you, Elizabeth. Are you there? It's like.
And there's some good commercials too. So yeah, I'll be on one of the calls for sure, Greg. I don't know how many calls you have next week, but I'm on one.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's some excellent memes going around, and goodness knows we needed some.
Yeah, I'm trying to fill out the survey, so I was a little distracted and had my mute on.
Oh, look at you. You're good. You're not trying to multitask. That's awesome.
For anybody that just joined, if you could please take a quick minute to fill out this survey, help us understand who you are and what you want to learn about today.
Oh, I see we have somebody named Llewellyn who just joined. That's my dad's middle name, Llewellyn. And it was his dad's middle name too. Llewellyn.
Again, I'm sorry for keeping to repeat this, but every time someone new gets added, they can't see the previous chat. So I am sending the survey again. If you have not taken it, please take the time really quick to fill that out so we know what you would like to learn about today.
Oh, somebody's on.
So I think we'll get started in a few minutes here. We'll wait, give everybody a little bit of time to join. So we'll start in a few more minutes, and we'll kick things off then. What's the temperature like where you're at, Jessica? You are muted.
I was on mute. Sorry. It's fine today, but tonight it's supposed to go down to like -8. So I know, right? And that ain't no Celsius either. So that is Fahrenheit. So it's going to be a little chilly tonight.
It was 6 degrees this morning where I'm at. So it's about as cold as it's got this year so far. So nothing compared to you.
There you go. Look at me, guys. Look at me. Llewellyn says it's the first time in a long time someone had my name right. Well, I don't know, Llewellyn, if you've ever been to Wales where the name originates, but let me tell you, we actually went to a town in Wales called Dolgelly. That's how you pronounced it. But let me tell you, it was, I can't even, it was just like every letter in the alphabet on a sign was actually how it was spelled. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Anyone that just joined, we are going to get started very soon. I just sent a link to a survey in the chat. If you could please take a quick moment to fill that out so we know what you are interested in learning more about today.
Great. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Audrey, Jessica, and Chloe. Can you guys just confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll go ahead and get started today. Hello, everyone. My name is Greg Gillespie. I am a principal here at Collectiv. Really excited to have all of you attending the Collectiv Academy for this new year. So this is the kickoff for our Collectiv Academy courses here. These are held every Thursday. So this year we will be holding one of these every Thursday. So if you are a past attendee, thanks again for joining. If you're new, we're very excited to have you here, and hopefully you can learn something here from us today, to where we're going to be going over a crash course on Power BI presented by the one and only Jessica Jolly, who is on the call with us. So thanks again, Jessica, for presenting. So before we get started, just a little bit about Collectiv. Wanted to take just a few minutes and introduce you to who we are. So we are a data analytics consulting firm. We are based out of Chicago, Illinois. However, we are 100% virtual. So we have consultants located all across the US and some in Canada as well. And what do we actually do? So as you might actually guess, we focus on the Power Platform, which is what we're going to be talking about today, which is Power BI. But the Power Platform also includes Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Now, we also focus on other services that surround those pieces of software, like Azure SQL, Azure Data Lakes, Data Factory, Azure Synapse, and then even taking those applications and moving them all the way into ML products and AI capabilities. So a lot of different things that we can help you and your organizations with, like I said, whether it's on the planning side, forecasting, AI, analytics. We specialize in FP&A. So when it comes to Power BI, we specialize in financial reporting. And then if your organization is actually wanting to budget forecast and plan. Maybe you're currently using Excel for that. We actually have the capability for you to do that from within Power BI. So while many organizations think that you just use Power BI for just viewing data, we actually have the capability to write back data from within a Power BI report. So very powerful things. And let's go back here. How can we help you? So we really kind of bucketize how we can help you in your organization in 3 different areas. One of those areas is strategy. So maybe you're just starting off with Power BI and you're really not sure how to get started, how to deploy that throughout your organization. One way we help you is with really a strategy and putting a plan in place with how you start from 0 and get you to that hero stage, to where you're just starting off with nothing, and you want to really kind of improve it and deploy that across the organization. Or maybe you've already deployed Power BI in your organization and you're having some problems with governance, maybe adoption. We also use strategy to help you out in that way. And then we have the typical consulting projects, to where maybe you're wanting to automate your Excel reporting, turning that into Power BI. Maybe you have sales reporting, operational reporting, that's all in some other platform, and you're wanting to convert that into a Power BI product. We can help you with that in just a straight up Power BI project. And then at the end of the day, we also offer just straight consulting, and we offer that in something we call consulting as a service. And we see that offered in a few different ways. Maybe you have a project that you just implemented and you need some post-project support, so we can help you out in that fashion. Maybe you already have a Power BI team or a analytics team on staff, and they need to bounce ideas off of individuals. We have a wide array of very talented consultants that you can ping and ask questions on. So those are all different ways that we can really help you out. So enough about the Collectiv crew. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Jessica, who's going to be basically giving everybody an introduction on Power BI. So really looking forward to it. She has a wider range of knowledge. So really, if you guys have any questions during this, please tap into her, use the chat. And without further ado, Jessica, the show is yours.
Oh, great. Oops, Greg, you got to go on mute. Thank you. Audrey, I don't know if you want to give your pitch one more time about the survey.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Audrey. Welcome to our first Collectiv Academy training event of the year. I sent a survey in the chat. If you have not already done so, please take a quick minute to fill that out. Jessica is going to be going over it very soon, and it helps us understand who is all here with us today and what you would like to learn about. I also have sent some links to our LinkedIn and YouTube, where you can find some other awesome content, tips, tricks on Power BI and the whole Microsoft Power Platform. I'll let you take it away, Jessica.
Oh, perfect. Hold on, guys. I got to get myself sorted out here. So while I'm doing that and sharing the right screen with you, let me say hello. My name is Jessica Jolly. I normally live right outside of Chicago, but I have been, during the pandemic, I have been spending it in Western Maine. So it's been lovely to be here. So I am delighted to be teaching this extremely, what I'm going to call the Zoom version of this class of Power BI, because it is a Zoom version. So just wait 1 second while I get myself sorted out here. I want to get I'm having just a moment here today, guys. Just bear with me. This is not something I normally struggle with, but apparently I'm going to struggle with it today. So I'm on the struggle bus right now, guys. Just bear with me while I get myself organized. I'm going to unshare that. And good. This is an excellent way to kick this off, isn't it? Just fumbling around. There we go. All right, I'm going to unshare this, and then I'm going to share my second screen here. Okay. There we go. That is much better. All righty. Now we've had that little technical faux pas. Let me get started. So a crash course in Power BI in less than an hour, or about an hour, is a really tall order. When I first started training in Power BI about 5 years ago, I would have said it cannot be done. And I would have said that vigorously. But after doing this for about 5 years, I have been able to sort of summarize what I've learned, what I've seen my students learn, into about 7 principles that you can use as guideposts on your journey as an organization or even as an individual. So I'm going to walk through these, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth. So I'm going to be jumping in and out of Power BI as I demonstrate a few of these principles for you. But I want to make sure that when you leave here today, you have a sense of the kinds of things that you'll want to tackle and the kinds of things that will help you be successful as an organization and as an individual. All right, so the first principle that I have found is that you need to understand the full ecosystem. So in a minute, I'll show you a slide that takes you through, and I'll walk you through all of the elements of the Power BI environment. A lot of people are familiar only with the service, or they're familiar only with the desktop. But it really works as a complete end-to-end system. And so it's really important that you have a grasp of all of the pieces of the puzzle. So we'll look at that as our very first step. Second principle is prep your data well. So as I was writing these slides yesterday, I kept hearing that song in my head, Teach Your Children Well. So prep your data well. If you do not prep your data and get it fit for purpose, you're going to struggle once you start to create reports from it. So time invested in understanding how to get your data ready to go into a report is critical. And we'll talk about that as well. Master the data model. Unfortunately, I will say that one of the skills that you are going to have to tackle, at least at some level, is data modeling. And it's not as scary as it sounds. There are a couple of principles involved, some of which I think if you've been using Excel for years, which I suspect most, if not all of you have, are going to be, you're going to be more familiar with these principles than you may realize. But they are critical to making your Power BI journey painless. Don't be afraid of DAX. So DAX is the programming language that is used in Power BI in order to add additional things to your data model, such as calculations that maybe are not present in the data model, in the data natively. But don't be afraid of it. Yes, are there some things to learn? Yes, there definitely are. But it is well within the reach of someone who wants to put in a little time and effort into it. And I'll go over just a tiny bit about DAX today. Leverage the Power BI service. I'm going to talk, this is not a conversation about licensing. I am not, skilled, nor would it be appropriate for me to have a deep dive conversation about licensing. However, it is important that you approach your journey with the right thinking about licensing, and we'll talk about that. And consider the workspace. How you disseminate data is really important for the success. So we'll talk about workspaces and what they are and what they can do for you as part of your Power BI adoption journey. And finally, become a data culture. So unrelated to anything specifically technical, becoming a data culture is crucial to having a long-term successful Power BI implementation. Now, Audrey is going to be watching the chat for questions, and she will interrupt me if there's something that's urgent or pertains directly to what I'm talking about. Because we have so little time, I'm going to sort of power through these, but I am happy to take questions after the class ends. I'm happy to stay on as long as needed to be able to address anything that's sort of burning a hole in your head when you're done with this. Okay, so let's go to the first one. So understand the full ecosystem. And Audrey, I just want to do a quick screen check just to make sure you are seeing the full ecosystem slide, just to make sure that's what's showing.
We're looking at the Jessica's Pithy.
Okay, so it should change in a second. I just changed it, so hopefully. Sometimes I get going and then I forget to check and make sure everybody can see what I'm showing.
We're actually, Jessica, we're actually looking, if you're presenting, we're actually seeing the actual PowerPoint itself.
Okay, hold on. So let me double check on that. Hold on. So you're not seeing the slide here. Okay, hold on. Hang on, guys. Let me get myself sorted out here again. I thought I had it all sorted out, but apparently I do not. Let me try this again. Okay. All right. Hopefully that will come in correct. I lost that red box, which is what made me ask the question if I was showing the slide.
Yep, now we're good.
Okay, phew. I was looked over there and I was like, where's that red box? So, all right. So I drew up this diagram for myself several years ago, and I really should update it, but I like it because it really gives you an overall view of all of the components as they connect to each other. So in the middle is the yellow box, which is the Power BI desktop. And that's a tool that a lot of people start with, number one, because it's free and you can download it and you can get started. It's easy to access. It's easy to start using. Within the Power BI desktop, there is a tool, an embedded tool called the Power Query Editor. And that's the tool in the green box. Power Query Editor is the tool that's going to allow you to alter your data, edit your data, transform your data, and make it fit for purpose. So the part that I talked about a minute ago with prepping your data, that all has to do with the Power Query Editor. So the central yellow box, Power BI Desktop, is where you're going to create your reports. You can create reports in the service, but best practice is for you to go ahead and author your reports in the Power BI Desktop. And you clean and prep your data in the green box in the Power Query Editor. Once you've got a report that's ready for prime time, you publish that report and into the Power BI service, and that's the white box. The white box is actually divided into two areas. One is called My Workspace, which we really won't be talking about today. You should consider that as a sandbox area for you to experiment and play. The other area is just called workspaces, and workspaces are collaborative areas where you and other people in your organization can look at reports, create dashboards, share data sets. In other words, just what it sounds like. It's a place for you all to come together and work on data together. Finally, each workspace can have an associated app. So when I say app here, I don't really mean the phone app per se. I mean almost like a package of content that has been bundled up and put together and can be published out to a wide audience in the organization. So we're going to talk about workspaces, we're going to talk about the service, and we'll be talking about the Power Query Editor, and we'll talk about the desktop. So these are the 3.5, I'm going to call the app a half component. These are the 3.5 big components in Power BI, and they all work together. So you can't really separate one from the other and have an effective Power BI implementation. All right, I'm going to keep going here. And so let's get started on prepping your data. So I just changed the slide, so hopefully that will happen. You guys will see the new slide. And the first thing I want to talk about is a perfect world. So we all know we live in a perfect world, right? For sure, it's absolutely perfect. And that means that you have perfect, clean, fit for purpose data coming from your source. That means that in your databases, in your systems, there are no misspellings, there's no inconsistencies, there's no missing data. And if you were not on mute, I'm pretty sure by this point you'd be laughing at me. So we all know that that doesn't happen often. It's an ideal, we can strive for it, but it doesn't happen often. So the next best thing is that you are able to clean the data at the source, meaning that you take the time, that you have the access, that you have the permissions to be able to go into whatever source it is you're using and that you can clean up the misspellings. You can clean up the blank rows. You can clean up the inconsistencies in the way things are worded. Now, although that's not as rare as a perfect world scenario, it's still pretty rare. Most people are not going to be able to get access to the source data to be able to clean it up. You may be able to implement a project to go back to the source data and clean that up. But generally speaking, you get what you get when you bring in the data from your sources. So in the real world, we use Power Query Editor to be able to clean and scrub your data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come out of this slideshow, and what I want to do is I want to bring you guys into the Power BI desktop. So first of all, let me get that open, and then secondly, let me share my screen. Oh, where are we? Teams, there we go. Let's get you shared on the Power BI desktop. Here we go. And I am going to be starting from a blank Power BI file. So right now you're looking on my screen, you're seeing a Power BI file that's populated, and we're going to get there in 1 second. But for now, I just want to start from a blank one. So I'm just going to go to File, and I'm going to create a new Power BI desktop. So again, I just hit File, and over here, my cursor's in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to hit New. And this is going to, just like any other Microsoft tool, this is going to open up a blank new file. So let's give it a second to bring that up. And once it's done that, we will, there we go. So our first step is to go ahead and get some data. So right now I'm looking at a blank screen here. I have no data in here. I have to go get data. So I'm going to bring my cursor to the upper left-hand side of my ribbon. I'm going to zoom in here just so you guys can see where I'm at. And I'm going to just open up Get Data really quickly so that you can see all the different options that are available to you. If I were to hit More right here, if I go and hit More, I'm going to get a whole big long list of things. I encourage you to explore these options on your own so that you can see what is available. In the interest of time, I'm going to just strictly go with Excel because, again, we're streamlining this for the purposes of this crash course. And I'll hit Excel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and find an Excel file. Now, I've pre-prepped it and put it right here so it's easy to find and so on. So this is fake data. There's nothing real about this data. And for that reason, I like to use it in my demos. It's also very easy to understand. Most of us start from an Excel background. So being able to start from Excel and see things that we're familiar with is a little less intimidating. So now what you're looking at right here, okay, this is a list of the worksheets that are in that Excel file. Okay, nothing magic there. Those are just the worksheets that are available in that file. And I'm just going to select all of them. And you'll notice that it's previewing over on the right-hand side. That is not a full view of the data. That's just a preview to make sure that I actually brought in the right thing. And now down here in this corner, I have two options. You can see that I can load the data directly into the data model, or I can hit transform data, and that's going to take me into the Power Query Editor. So I'm going to do that because, again, I want to show you the Power Query Editor and just give you a sense of what it can do. We will by no means have time to go through all of its features and functionality today, but I just want to, give you a nibble of it so you get a sense of what it can do. So I'm going to hit transform data. And now it's going to think for a minute, and now it's going to open up a new window. So this is something that's very confusing to people when they first start out with Power BI is, getting a sense of where you are in the Power BI ecosystem. That's why I always start out with that diagram to show people. So when you are first starting out, you might go, whoa, I'm confused. Am I actually in Power BI? I'm in the Power Query Editor. Where am I? So I always tell everybody, always look up here in the upper left-hand corner, and you can see where it says Power Query Editor here. So if you're not comfortable, if you feel a little lost, go up to that left-hand side. Now down here on the left-hand panel, you will see all of the worksheets that we brought in. Okay, now again, nothing magic here. These are just worksheets in Excel. Here, now that they are in the Power Query Editor, and from here on forward, these are going to be called queries. So one thing that you do have to kind of shift from when you start getting into Power BI is realizing that Power BI was born in the database world. So they use database terminology. And for me personally, that was a very difficult transition initially. So these are just the same old worksheets that that were in the Excel file. Okay, they just are called queries now. And I am going to go in and I'm going to just make a few changes. I'm not going to do a lot here because we don't have the time, but I'm going to just make a few changes so you can get a sense for what this tool can do. I'm going to go to the customers query. So I'm just going to click on it. So my cursor just was hovering over customers and I clicked once. And now in the middle window, you can see the data that was in that worksheet. It's now over here in this query. Now, what you cannot do is just double click into these and start editing. That doesn't work that way. We're going to use the ribbon up here to apply commands to the data to shape it the way you want to. So for example, one thing I could do is I could use my scroll bar here at the bottom. So my cursor's all the way at the bottom and I'm using my scroll bar. And I can come across and I can look at the data and I can see that there's some columns in here that I don't really need. So for example, this column right here, I see that it's mostly empty. Okay, and I do get this window down here that gives me a sense of what the data population is in there. So I can get a count, I can tell how many are empty, I can tell how many are distinct and so on. That's just a window, so I'm going to bring it down and minimize it. But I can go ahead and I can use my ribbon to remove the column, or I can right click. So remember, a lot of the principles that you know about Microsoft tools are still operative here. You can use things on the ribbon or you can right click, whatever you prefer. In this case, I'm going to keep it super simple and I'm just going to do a remove columns, and that's going to remove that column. What I want to draw your attention to is that over here on the right-hand side of the window, we now have this box here called Applied Steps. And notice that this is now recording the step that I took. This is the magic, folks. This is it. This is the secret sauce. This is the reason you want to investigate and really take advantage of Power Query Editor. What it does is it records every step you take. So if you're thinking about songs, you could think about that really weird Sting song, every move you make. It's recording every step you take. But here's the beautiful thing. If you update that file and you bring it in again, or you just refresh it right here, you don't have to do all that work again. I'm going to say that again for you guys. You don't have to do that work again. It's already mapped out step by step. So you do the transformations, the changes on your data once, and as long as the file stays and when it's brought in has the same exact structure, your work is done. No more doing this repetitively. So again, Power Query Editor will well repay the work you put into learning it. And I will say, by the way, guys, it's also available in Excel 2016. So you can use it over there as well. I'm going to make one more change here because we got to keep moving. Notice that here at the top, my column names are useless to me. So they just say column 1, column 2, column 3. Well, that's useless. So I need to use my first row, which is right here, customer ID. Let me zoom up a little bit just so you can see that. This first row right here, I need to take that row and I need to turn it into column headers. Well, that's easy to do. I'm going to come up to my ribbon I'm all the way over here on the, almost to the right, and I'm going to use first row as headers. And I'm just going to click on that, and boom, it's going to promote those header rows, that first row to headers, and it's recorded my step over here. So again, every time I make a change, the step gets recorded. All right, I could be here 3 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours showing you everything about the Power BI Power Query Editor. We don't have time for that, unfortunately. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way over here to the left-hand side, and I'm going to go to close and apply. So what that's going to allow me to do is that is going to allow me to take the changes that I just made, the transformations that I just made, and I am now going to apply them in the data model. I'm also going to close this Power Query Editor window at the same time, just because I don't need it open, because we're not going to, be moving back and forth. But in real life, you will keep this window open, I guarantee it, because the process of cleaning and transforming your data takes a long time usually if you're working with complex data sets. They say that 80% of any data business intelligence project is spent cleaning and prepping the data. I don't know, obviously it's going to vary project to project, but it's still a considerable amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close and apply here, because we're on a whirlwind tour. And now it's going to bring things in. And while it's doing that, I am now going to go back, and I'm going to go back to my next slide. And so we'll jump back to the slides for 1 second. Sorry if it's making you dizzy. Hang on. Let me get you back into the slides here. Where are my slides? Here are my slides. Hopefully you are now seeing my slides. And let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about prepping your data. Audrey, let me just do a quick slide check, making sure I did that transition. So you should be seeing the master the data model slide, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, good. Just didn't want, sometimes when you move from thing to thing, you lose something. So I just wanted to do a triple check there. All right, so data modeling in and of itself can be a terrifying term. However, what I'm going to say to you is, if you've ever built a VLOOKUP in an Excel file, you have used principles of data modeling. It's not exactly the same thing. I agree, it's not exactly the same thing. However, the logic and the thought process is the same. You have connected, if you use a VLOOKUP, you've connected two columns together in order to pull data from one worksheet to another worksheet. So, talking about data models very quickly, the star schema is the star of the show. So you will see that term a lot. I'm going to draw it out so you can sort of see it in a real model. It's the one that I'm going to show you isn't a perfect star, but it's not really about perfection as much as it is about the principle. Okay, so the principle of a star schema is that your what's called your fact table, and when I say fact, I'm spelling it F-A-C-T. So the information that you are tracking. So if you're tracking sales, it's your sales transactions. If you're tracking doctor's appointments, it's your appointments. Whatever it is that you're tracking, the transactions are in the fact table. Usually that table is going to be very, very long. Okay, so if you think about tracking sales for, let's say, a nationwide network of grocery stores, and each point of sale is a transaction, that's going to be many, many, many millions of rows. Okay, then around the fact table, so think of the fact table as sort of a center point of your star. Around the fact table, you're going to have what are called dimension tables. And dimension tables just describe the facts. So for example, if I still use the idea of a grocery store network and we're tracking all of the sales for the grocery stores, I would have a product SKU number, for example, in my fact table. But in a dimension table, I can link it from the fact table to the dimension table. And I can say, okay, over here in the product dimension table, I can talk in great detail about the product. What's the product's name? What's its SKU number? What's its category? What's its subcategory? All of those things that describe the product will live over in the dimension table. So do not worry if some of that seems like, well, wait a second, what is she talking about? As soon as you kind of dig into this a little bit, it'll start to make a whole lot of sense. But just keep that idea of a star schema in your head. Facts are in the center and descriptions orbit around the outside of the star. All right. And relationships. So the connection between the fact center and the descriptions on the outside are the relationships. Relationships between those tables are the key to functional visuals. So once you go into Power BI, a lot of people start with, oh, you know, this is so much fun. I'm going to make a visual that does this and a visual that does that. And pretty quickly, you're going to run into problems. And 99% of the time, the problem you're going to run into is because the data model doesn't have the right type of relationship or doesn't even have a relationship where you can use two fields from different tables in the visual. So when I'm teaching a class on Power BI, I always tell people the very first thing you do is you go in and check your data model. So that's what we're going to do really quickly. So again, let me get out of here. And I'm going to share my Power BI screen. So again, apologies for all this jumping, but I want you to see. All right, so I want you to see what I'm talking about. All right, I'm coming into this Power. Okay, so hopefully, Audrey, you're now seeing the Power BI screen.
Yep.
Good, beautiful. All right, so the first thing I do, forget about the fact that I've got all these visuals here. Don't worry about that. This is a lot like a cooking show. I have to prepare everything in advance because I have to do everything, you know, so rapidly. Normally, you would come in and you'd have a blank screen here. But let me come over to the left-hand side. So now I've brought my data in. Okay, so I've got my data into my file here. And if you go, sorry, I told you to go to the left side, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to first point out on the right-hand side, here are all those worksheets that I brought in, okay? And again, they've kept the names coming over from Excel, so these should look, you know, user-friendly, as it were. So the data is in, and now I'm going to come over on the left-hand side, and I'm going to look at these three icons over here on the left-hand side. So the first icon is the report view. So that's where I look at my visuals. That's where I build my visuals. The second one is the data view, and that's where I can see the data that's present in the tables and the queries that I've imported. Okay, I can see it. I cannot, this is not the place to make changes at this point, okay? But I can look at it. I can even filter it. But again, this is really more for, you know, for you to be able to just look at it and try to understand what you're seeing in your visuals. And finally, the most important one, in my opinion, is this modeling view down here. So here we have a picture of a data model. It is not a perfect star, like I told you, it's not a perfect star, but it's gonna do the job here. So I'm gonna show you right here. Here are my order details. So this is my fact table right here in the center. Okay, I want you to envision that as the fact table. And because it's storing facts about the orders that have been placed. So this is the the fact table. And then as I connect tables into it, I can use relationships to establish my connections between the fact table and the description table. So I'm just drawing this out so that you can see the approximation of a star. Okay, I realize it's not perfect. but just bear with me here. The idea of a central table that is connected out to other tables. So this is not a perfect star schema, but for our purposes, it'll serve the trick. Now we have a problem here, which is why I always tell everybody the first thing you do when you bring your data in is you come into your data model. See how this customer table right here? So this is that customer's worksheet. It is not connected to anything. Notice how I'm just pulling it around here. It is free floating. And what that means is that if I want to use a field from this table to display information about orders, let's say, it's not going to work because there's no connection. There's no relationship. Okay, so that's why I said in the slide, relationships are key to any functional visuals. Okay, if you're having a problem with the visual, the first place you look is in the data model. So I'm going to go back up to my report really quickly, and we're going to look at these visuals that I've already built out here. So here is a slicer visual. So the slicer visual is just a visual that I drag onto the canvas that allows me to display all the customers. So just in the interest of being able to demonstrate that really quickly, it's not going to be formatted as nicely as this one, but that's okay. I'm going to do it right here so you can see it. I'm in the blank canvas. I've just clicked into the blank canvas area. I go over to my list of visuals. So I'm over here on the right-hand side now, and I'm going to find my slicer visual. Okay, so there's my slicer visual. I'm going to click on it, and that's going to give me an empty shell for a visual right over here. Okay, so that's my empty visual shell. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a field over here from my fields list. So I'm back over here on the right-hand side now. So I'm going to go to my customers table, and I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to drag company name. I'm just going to make this a little bigger so you can see the field name. I'm going to drag company name. So I can just literally pick it up and drag it right onto that visual right there. So there we go. And now you can see how easy that is to create. So I just made this one a little prettier right down here. I just wanted you to see here how you do this. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this one and replace it with the exact same thing right here. So that was how easy it was to create that. But now, okay, now what I want you to see is I can make this as pretty as I want to. It doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to unselect all. Let me jump in here and do an unselect all. So I've selected nothing now. Okay, now I'm going to go select an individual customer. I'm just going to pick them at random. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this individual customer, and guess what? Nothing changes. Nothing happens. Okay, I can pick a different one. Nothing happens. No visual changes. And the reason for that is because this, I am pulling that field right here. So I'm pulling company name into that visual. I'm using this field, but when I pick a company right here, this is connected to nothing. So there's no way it's going to display any other information from any other visual. So what I need to do now is I need to connect it to something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find customer ID. So here's my customer ID. So that's the unique numerical number that describes each customer. And I'm going to connect it over here, okay, to this customer ID. Now, there's lots more to cover about that. We don't have time to do that today, but I encourage you to, think about, if you're going to do Power BI seriously, think about data modeling classes. Or at least a class that talks in a little more detail than I'm doing right now. But the bottom line is that I need to get this guy connected to this guy. And it's easy. I just drag. Okay, now there's other ways to do it here. There's other ways to get it done. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just drag it. And you can see now that I have a line between the customers and the orders. And then I have a line from orders down to order details. So that means that I can now see the order details for a particular customer because they are connected. Okay. Now there's lots of nuance to that, which we're not getting into here, but when you get down to root cause, if you have a visual that's not working, the first thing you do is go look at that model. So now notice what happens when I pick a customer. Everything is changing. Okay, so they're all changing here. And that's because there's a connection now. And that means that these visuals can now use the data connections, the relationships, to display the appropriate data. Okay, so that was data modeling, Super 101. Let me keep moving here. And let's now go, I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my slideshow here really quickly, and we will talk about DAX. DAX is the big scary thing in the room, guys. This is the one that everybody gets all exercised about. So let's talk quickly about DAX. Don't be afraid of it. I would be lying to you if I said it was easy to master. It is not easy to master. I've been spending a year learning DAX, and there is a moment that comes when you go, oh, I get it, okay? But you do need to have some sense of what DAX can do for you, and I want to give you just a super brief introduction to it. Again, these are guideposts for your journey. So DAX is a functional language, just like Excel formulas. What do I mean by that? I mean, it uses functions. So if you've ever written an Excel formula with a sum in it, you know what a functional language is. Okay, so sum, average, divide, all of those things are functions. And DAX uses functions. So that you're already ahead of the game because you're already familiar with that. The syntax is very similar to that in Excel. So it uses parentheses, it uses commas. It is just as picky as Excel. So if you miss a comma, if you don't close your parentheses, it's going to hiss at you just like Excel does. Okay, so if you write a lot of Excel formulas and you're familiar with that, having to be so super careful, then you're going to be fine with this because you'll know to check. That all your commas are there, all your parentheses are closed. Now here's one of the major differences. DAX uses something called the VertiPack engine, okay? And the thing you need to know about the VertiPack engine is that it stores data in columns, okay? So you do not get to the cellular level like you do in Excel. Okay, that is one of the things that people really have to, unhitch themselves from. You are not going down to the cell level when you use DAX. You're going to be working with columns of data. Okay, so that's a really important concept. And that means that DAX acts on columns, total columns, not cells. Okay, so when you're working with DAX and Power BI, forget cells. Okay, cells in Power BI are just a way to display the data. They have no real meaning other than that. And that means because you don't work with cells, that to get to that level of granularity that you're familiar with in Excel, you're going to use something called filter and row context. Now, filter and row context can take a year to just sort of wrap your head around, but I want to sort of demonstrate it for you on this report so you get a sense of that. So again, let me escape out. I'm going to get really good at this going back and forth just in about 1 minute here. So hang on 1 second. Let me get to the Power BI report and we're going to go back to that, and hopefully you are now seeing the Power BI report again. Now, I've already written some DAX here. So this is, as I said, it's a cooking show. I've learned my lesson. I have to do things and prep it in advance. Otherwise, you will watch me fumble. And yeah, that's not a good use of your time. So what I've done is I've already written a measure, but I want to in DAX, but I want to show it to you so that you can, I'm going to take it apart in front of your eyes. So over here on the right-hand side, okay, so I'm just going to zoom in so you can see, I'm in the orders details table right here, okay? And what I did not have, if you had the chance to look at that worksheet in Excel, what you would not have seen in the data was anything that told me what the order value was. So I had unit price. So you can see that I had unit price here. This is a field that I had in Excel, and I had quantity in Excel, but I had nothing that multiplied them together. Okay. And when you get data that comes in from a source and you need to make some additional calculations on that data in Power BI, that is called creating a measure. Okay. So I created a measure, and you can see it here with the little calculator next to it called total order value. So let me zoom out, and I'm going to click on total order value so you can see a measure in the wild here. So up here in my formula bar now, I have a line of DAX. This is a line of DAX, and I want to just take you through it so you see some of the similarities here. So first of all, here is the name of this calculation, the name of this measure. So I've named it something so I can call it and use it. Equals, so that's similar to Excel. And then sum is the function I'm using. And here is the first column. So order details is the table, and then the column is unit price. And then I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to use another function, sum, and I'm going to, here's the column. I'm going to take orders details, and I'm going to take quantity. So this is taking the unit price column and multiplying it by the orders details quantity column. That's what it's doing. Okay. Now, you say to me, well, wait a minute, how am I going to know, like at a granular level? Because what this returns is this returns a number all up. So let me make sure all my customers are selected. So I just came over here and did all my customers. I have every customer selected. Now notice that this little visual right here that I created actually has the total order value for all of the customers, 2.9 billion, okay? So that's like, okay, well, wait a minute. I don't want to know it for all the customers. I want to know it for an individual customer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select an individual customer. Oops, I'm going to unselect all and then select an individual customer. And now notice that what it has done is it's given me the total order value for just that customer. And what's happened is I am using what's called a filter context. So I am filtering this measure that I created called total order value. I am filtering it, and I get this value, which is the granularity for just this customer. Now, if I want to take it a little further and I want to show it for the orders for that individual customer, I use them in this visual right here, which is just a table that I created. And now notice that I have all of the orders for that customer, and I have the total order value for that customer for each order. And that's called the row context. So the way DAX works is you get the value for the column, okay? And then you're going to use filters and row context to be able to get down to a granular level. Again, filter and row context are hard concepts to wrap your mind around. So it does take a minute to sort of master or get your mindset, but I promise you, the minute you finally, it tumbles for you when all the little pieces tumble into place, then you go, aha, okay, I understand what's happening. So again, just remember, DAX works at the column level, not at a cell level. Okay, let me go back, and we're going to go back to our slides here really quick. And I know that we're almost coming to the top of the hour, so I want to be thoughtful about that and yet get through all the material, so bear with me. Okay, now, next one up is leverage the power of the, oops, that's not showing. Hold on, guys, let me get it right. Sorry about that. That should be showing. Let me get it right. Here we go. Come on. Leverage the power of the service. So what I mean by that is when I train on Power BI, I hear a lot of people saying, well, most of our people are just going to have free licenses. No, no. Okay. You do need to not rely on the freebie sharing methods. You can email someone a PBIX file. You can put a PBIX file, which is what a report file is called. You can put that in a SharePoint or on a OneDrive. But in terms of sharing and creating a Power BI organization, do not rely on freebie methodology. In the long run, it will not work. And so clarity around what your licensing journey is going to look like is critical to success. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I'm not a Microsoft salesperson, but I just want, that's a gotcha that I want you to be aware of. Okay, let's talk about the workspace. So the workspace, if you recall, is the service. So that's the part of Power BI that you access on the web. And if you didn't start your journey in the desktop, you may have started your journey over on the web, maybe through Office 365. Workspaces are the primary organizational tool in the service. And a workspace is what I mentioned before. It's the ability for a group of people to come together to share reports, data sets, dashboards, data flows. So it is an area for you all for a selected group of people to collaborate together. You need to spend some time thinking about how will you organize your workspaces. And what I mean by that is you could organize them by topic. And that idea, I freely admit, I'm stealing from Melissa Coates, who is data architecture, Power BI architecture person. She's really, really good. And one of the ways that she suggests that you can decide to organize workspaces is by topic. So you can have a workspace for finance and a workspace for manufacturing. So that's one way to do it. Another way is to consider security and organize or group things by the types of security permissions people need. I think looking at departments is another principle that you can apply. Departments might overlap with topics, but it might not. So again, it's sort of a thing that you want to think about in terms of a matrix view. And audience, meaning who is going to want to consume content from these workspaces. Because remember, every workspace can publish an app, which is a packaged up set of content from the workspace. So it is useful to also be thinking about audience as you consider the workspace. Workspaces allow you to control access to reports and dashboards. So who has access to them, how much access they have. So you can have people in your workspace who are administrators all the way down to just viewers. So you have you have 4 levels of granularity for that. And you can use workspaces to identify data sets that you are promoting, meaning the person who worked on the data set, created the data set, is standing behind their work, or certifying, meaning the organization as a whole says, yes, this is a blessed data set, everybody can use it, we vouch for the quality of it. And workspaces allow you to distribute your content in a controlled method. So again, you can decide through the app what versions of the reports are out there in circulation, what versions of your dashboards are out there in circulation. So it's a very good way to control information. I'm going to very quickly, because we are almost out of time, I'm going to very quickly just take you to the service so you can kind of see what a service looks like. And then we will finish with our last slide. So hang on one second. I now want to take you this is where I want to take you. Beautiful. So you should now be looking at a workspace. So I'm in the service. So notice that I'm in a browser up here at the top. I'm in a browser. I've logged in. So you access your service through your credentials, your Office 365 credentials. And now what I have down the left-hand side is a menu bar. And I've created a workspace here called PBI Crash Course, okay? And inside that workspace, right over here on the right-hand side, I have a report that I have published. Okay, so I've got that report that I was just showing you. I published it up here. And coming with the report is the data set that goes with it. Okay, you can't separate them. They go together. Okay, I can add people or subtract people from this workspace. So for example, notice over here on the right-hand side, I'm in the Access tab right here. So this is access for my workspace. And I can add somebody either as an admin or a member or a contributor or a viewer. And those go in order of levels of permission. Okay, so again, I can control who has access to the data, what kind of access they have, and so I can get very intentional about how I am sharing data across my organization. I can create dashboards here. I don't happen to have a dashboard created right here, but I could easily create one from a model that I have. So I can just come in here and I can click on the model. So that's all, excuse me, the report. And then notice if I hover, let me zoom in. If I hover over a particular visual, I can pin that visual using the pin, and it will say, okay, where would you like to take this visual and put it? And I'll put it on here. I'll put it on a new dashboard that I'm going to name. So now I will have another dashboard, another piece of content in my workspace, a dashboard that I have created. So workspaces can contain up to 5 different types of content. So reports from the desktop, data sets that go with the report, dashboards that are created from visuals in reports, and a new thing, or not a new thing, but a relatively new thing called data flows. I'm going to go back. I'm using my menu over here on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to go back into the main view of my workspace now. And what I want to do now, and see, here's my dashboard. I just added it. What I want to do is I want to decide what content is going to be in my app. So notice that I have an app that I've already created. I did that before we started. And I now can decide what content is going to be in that app. And hang on, guys, I didn't mean to hit that button quite so quickly. Notice that over here on the right-hand side now, I have these toggle switches that say, okay, do you want me to include this in your app? And I can choose, I can select which content gets included in the app. Once I've done that, I'm going to come over. I have an app, as I said, that's already published. This is a lot like a cooking show. I click on app, and here is my app that I now have published out to the organization. Anybody can look at this. They can see things that I've included, and I have navigation over here on the left-hand side. And it's a way for me to distribute in a controlled fashion, a way for me to distribute content that I want everybody to look at. I can see when the data was updated. And I can export the app to a PowerPoint. I can subscribe to it. I can comment on it. There's a lot of integration now between workspaces and Teams. So if you're heavily using Teams, you can leverage that as well. So, oops, sorry guys. You definitely will want to think through what your workspace architecture will be. And that leads me to my last slide. Hang on, I'm going to go to my last slide and then we will finish. And I will be happy to take any questions you may have because I realize I've gone lightning fast here. So let me get to the last slide, which is maybe the most important slide of all, which is you need to become a data culture. So you need to organize your data sources. You need to, where are they stored? Are they named clearly? Are there duplicates? You need to curate your data sources. So you need to know your data's provenance. Who created it? Where did it come from? Or you need to review its accuracy and keep it clean. You need to keep it up to date. You need to make sure that to the extent that you can, the data sources that talk about the same things are using the same naming convention, if at all possible. So all of that is part of curating your data. You need to train your staff, okay? It's really important. You've seen today a couple of comments about data modeling and DAX, and that's just really the tip of the iceberg. Lots of people will need some help adjusting to a new way of looking at data. They have the native capacity because they've already used Excel for years and years, but they may need some help along the way. And you really do want people to take ownership over their data. So you want data stewards and you want data wranglers. So you want people who really understand the data and work with the data all the time to be very well trained and helpful. And you want to use the promote and certify features so that people know which data sets to trust in their Power BI reports. And I think that's it. Whew. Oh, I'm going to take a breath here. And I'm going to say thank you. But now what I'm going to do is I am going to open it up and see what kinds of questions they have. And I'm happy to stay as long as you need me to for any questions you have. And thank you for your patience. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'll see what everybody has to say here. Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I don't know. Audrey, oh no, did you see any questions that were burning people up?
Everyone can feel free to come off mute if you have a specific question regarding Power BI, but I just saw some questions regarding the recording of this and also the slide deck, and I will be sending out an email after the event with both of those.
Oh, yes, and look, oh, okay, I'm gonna start looking at these questions, these comments, so there's some goodies out here. Okay, Chris, I don't know who you are, but you are my person. Chris Mindenhell says, teach your children well, your data is hell. Okay, I'm so totally stealing that. I have no idea who you are, but you rock, okay, because that is so true. And I don't know, Hector added dimension tables normally contain static info. Yes, that is a great comment, Hector. I'm sorry I wasn't kind of watching the chat during it, but I do agree. One way to think about dimension tables is they are wide. They're not long, they're wide, and they are usually pretty static, where the fact table is going to be much more dynamic because you're always adding transactions. So I love that. Audrey says that there's a data modeling, a training event. If you can make it, I highly recommend it. Data modeling is really a big part of the challenge. Oh, and she says they have an event on DAX. Yay. Okay, there's a bunch of questions on the link. Yep, you're all going to get that. And Lyndon says, would you recommend being very proficient in Excel first? I love that question, and here's why. Because there are some things that transfer very, very well from Excel over to Power BI, and there are some things you have to leave behind. But so would I say that you would be, if you knew nothing about Excel, would your learning curve for Power BI be a little steeper? Probably. Yes, probably. But is it doable? Do you have to be a master in Excel before you go to Power BI? No, you don't have to be a master. But you having used it, and as Chris said, the struggle is real. Having used it and having struggled with some of the issues in Excel about having to do the same things over and over again can be a very strong motivator to learning how to use specifically the Power Query editor. So I love that. Let's see. Diana wants to know some best practices. Okay, so some best practices, I tried to point them out along the way, but you're right, I probably didn't capture all of them. best practices is create your reports in the Power BI desktop. You can create them in the service, but it's not as efficient, and there are some very significant limitations. So best practice is to create them in the desktop. Another best practice is work on your model first. Consider your model to be part of your data prep. As I said, if your model is not fit for purpose, you can throw visuals all day long and they're not going to do what you need them to do, or they might do what you want them to do, but they may take forever to respond because the model isn't an efficiently designed model. So the model is really the beating heart of the whole thing. So that's another best practice. Another best practice is think through the workspace organization that you want. Do not let the workspace just get created higgledy-piggledy, especially because of the integration with Teams now. So again, think through how you want to organize your workspaces. That's a very important part of success. And train your users. Obviously, I'm biased. Obviously, I think that training is important. That's how I make my living. So you can take that with a grain of salt, but I wouldn't. You need to give people the skills to master this technology. Okay, let's see. And history of success. I'm involved in data culture revolution in my company. Yes, I love, Diana, that comment about a revolution, because it is a revolution for sure. It is not the way we have thought about data in the past. So it is, and I'll tell you that a guy named Matthew Roche, R-O-C-H-E, who's a Microsoft employee, has a very excellent series of videos on building a data culture. So they're well worth going out to watch. And let's see, okay, I think we're good. I think we got every question. Oh wait, how do I see Power BI comparing to other tools such as Tableau? Llewellyn, my guy Llewellyn. I don't know Tableau, and so I don't want to comment on it because I don't know it. I believe it's a good product, and I believe it has strengths, just like Power BI has strengths. The one thing I will say about Power BI is that it's embedded in the Microsoft stack, and that is, I think that's an incalculable advantage compared to having a tool that is not embedded in the Microsoft stack, because you do get all those integrations with other Microsoft tools that you're using already. But other than that, I don't know Tableau, so I can't really comment fairly on it. Okay, I think that's it. I think we got everything. I'm happy. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. I love helping people with their journey. That's one of the reasons I love being part of Collectiv, is that that's what we do. So yeah, that's all I got. If you got other questions, let me know.
Everyone, and be sure to follow our LinkedIn and YouTube to get more tips, and also check out the rest of our Collectiv Academy training schedule.
Yeah, be there or be square, people. Totally. Well, yeah, because if you're there, you'll be circular like our logo there. So yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jessica.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.